Alrighty, part 3, chapter 18, the Clinton crime family. So, as I mentioned, the very first item on this long laundry list of crap that the corrupt Clintons have committed, like the alliteration there, goes all the way back to the early 1970s. There's a woman in Bill Clinton's life, and by the way, I'm going to be looking over here to this long list because there's no way I could keep it all straight in my head. I don't have eidetic or photographic memory, so bear with. There's a woman in Bill Clinton's life, had been in Bill Clinton's life, named Dolly Kyle Browning. She and Bill Clinton had known each other since they were children, I believe. But in the early 1970s, 72, 73, she started a long affair with Bill Clinton. Now, I say this because it's on and off, because he has so many mistresses he could be on all the time. He was married, eventually, a few years later. So this is a mistress, therefore it's an affair, and it's on and off. When it's convenient, when they're together, when they're whatever. She had no problem with it. Neither did he. Dolly Kyle Browning. It probably lasted until he became president. Because when all the stuff hit early on in his presidency, she had to, or he had to, or Hillary had to, somebody had to cut that. That puppy went on almost 20 years. It was his longest affair. How meaningful it was, I don't care. Point is, it started before they were married. So that's number one. When I'm talking about what Hillary knew and didn't know, when she knew it, and what she had to agree to going into the agreement. Did she know about Dolly Kyle Browning? I have no idea. But she was there. Then we skip over to Hillary. Now, when I say that is an affair, now is that a crime? No. Is that something you can indict someone on? No. Of course, if they knew about it, maybe he wouldn't have gotten some of these nice, cushy jobs Bill got. So it did have an effect, but the covering up of it. But, okay, I give you a pass. The odd thing is, Bill is not the person who committed the first crime in this family. It's Hillary. Her corruption actually goes back before his. 1974. Now everyone remembers, those who were alive or those who follow history, that 1974 was a big political year. It was the year of Watergate. When Nixon, people working for Nixon, committed what was later called a third-rate burglary at the Democrat headquarters at the Watergate offices, not the hotel, the offices, where the Democrat offices were. And they just stole some silly stuff, and it didn't even have to happen. It wasn't under the orders of Richard Nixon, but it was his guys. And rather than, firing them and saying, these guys did wrong, whatever, he covered it up. It was the cover-up that doomed Richard Nixon. And he didn't have to cover it up because it had nothing to do with him, honestly. I mean, he could have walked from that. That was nothing. But Nixon was his own worst enemy. He had an enemies list, and he should have been on the top of it. Not for a smart guy, he was pretty dumb when it came to that. The minute the media was on his case, he was like, I hate the media so much, I'm actually going to screw myself to try to pin them as the problem. Watergate. So there were lawyers who prosecuted Richard Nixon to try to prove that he is impeachable. And on this team of prosecutors, this group of lawyers, was a young lawyer named Hillary Rodham. For history's sake, Hillary didn't take on the Hillary Rodham Clinton name until Bill was, I think, governor of Arkansas the second time. Before that, she was only known as Hillary Rodham, her maiden name. Hillary Rodham became a lawyer, earned it, she passed the bar, blah, blah, blah. And she was allowed to join the Rose Law Firm, the second oldest law firm in the country, I believe, in Little Rock, Arkansas, later on in the 70s. But as a member of this legal team, I don't think it was anything to do with Rose Law Firm, trying to prosecute Richard Milhouse Nixon and impeach him, or give articles of impeachment for the Congress. Hillary Rodham Clinton was excused, you might say, from this team because she violated ethics. Now, I won't go into what she did, but what she did would have ended most lawyers' careers. I'll leave it at that. And her only punishment, you don't get to prosecute Richard Nixon, you're off the team. Ethics violations, and she was barely, 25 at the time? Just jump a few years into the future. Bill Clinton becomes the Attorney General of Arkansas. Probably with Hillary's help somehow, but mostly his own doing, I'm sure. Hillary suddenly is member of the Rose Law Firm, a very difficult firm to be part of, but more importantly, they make her a partner early on in her time there, unheard of. The first woman partner there, okay. But the fact she was a partner with very little experience at that firm and as a lawyer in general, with an ethics violation in her past, makes your head explode. It's like unheard of. It tells you the influence peddling that must have gone on even that early in their careers. My husband is the Attorney General. He will make sure that your cases are heard that you want, and that things go smoothly on this side if you make me a partner. And if you think I'm just guessing here, think again. These are accusations, once again, things that are swept under the rug and that they got away with. That is a known secret, if you will, pardon the oxymoron, throughout Arkansas politics back in the late 70s. As Attorney General, he now had some power and influence. Not necessarily the money yet, but it was coming. And as a person with a mental disorder, a sexual proclivity, as he had, and now the power to wield it, things start to slip. In 1978, he was on the job for a year or so. He allegedly, and we have to say allegedly because this has never gone to trial, and he's never been charged or indicted for it. He allegedly raped Juanita Broderick. Now, this is the only rape charge that I'm aware of in his long, sordid history. But it's early in his career as a womanizer. Was he a little more out of control? Don't know. The woman is completely believable. Most of all of Clinton's accusers are believable. There are some people who are just not believable. These people's stories have never changed. Their emotions are never different from any time they say it. They are completely and utterly believable. And of course, when you tie that into his history, and then the provable stuff, the stuff that he had even admitted to, finally, you start to see not only a pattern, but you start to say, well, if these guys are believable and even proven to be correct in their accusations, who else is probably right? Who else who's accusing him is probably not lying? Most of them. All of them? So when I say allegedly, that's just the legalese that everyone supposedly has to say, because otherwise you can be guilty of Slander. Bill Clinton raped Juanita Broaddrick. There's no doubt. It's just not provable. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations for rape. I don't think there is. It's like murder. I'm not sure. She says he did it. I believe her. A lot of people believe her. He's a rapist. He was the Attorney General of Arkansas, and he was a rapist. That's getting your career started on a really good foot. Later on in his time as a politician in Arkansas, he became the governor of Arkansas. Whatever his success rate as a attorney general led to, or whatever the dearth of good politicians might have been in Arkansas in the late 70s, one or the other or both happened, I don't know. But he became the governor of Arkansas. It only lasted one term, and then he had to wait a couple years to become governor again. But the first term, he began to do or engage in a certain illegal act that, again, he never got prosecuted for, that if done by any other person in politics, especially if it was done by a Republican, we're in balance here, would have been, he'd have not only been taken off the job, but, indicted, put in jail, thrown away the key. One of the first known continuous corruptible acts of Bill Clinton, and the first to have the suffix "gate" added to the back end of it in reference to Watergate, as all scandals now have the word "gate" if they're of any size, importance, or duration, now have, was perpetrated starting all the way back in 1979. Now this was known as Troopergate. Troopergate. What is Troopergate? For those of you who don't know, don't remember, or tried to forget, Troopergate was the time for many years, in fact, his entire time as governor, both times, he was a multiple term governor, but throughout his entire governorship, he illegally used the state troopers of Arkansas, their time, their resources, their police cruisers, and other things that were taxpayer funded, so that he could have extramarital affairs behind Hillary's back while he was living at the governor's mansion in Little Rock. So here's how it would work. He would have troopers on his behalf, certain ones he trusted, solicit young women that he saw at gatherings, functions, bars, walking down the street while he's in the governor's limo, whatever, to proposition them on his behalf for a get-together or dinner, drinks, or a hookup. Or if Hillary was out of town, to bring them to the governor's mansion. He would ride in the back of the cruisers, the troopers' cruisers, out the back of the governor's mansion at nighttime when Hillary was asleep, so that no one would recognize the governor was driving down the road in the back of a police cruiser, hunting for his next female concubine. This literally went on for 12 years, with a couple years when he was not in the governor's mansion. From 1979 to 1992, when he ran for president, couldn't be governor anymore. This happened over and 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 over. I cannot say that word enough. Dozens, maybe hundreds of times. Some of these people were regulars. Dolly Kyle Browning, for instance. And a new one that popped up right around the time he became governor, a woman named Jennifer Flowers, who not long after suddenly became someone who had a nice job in the government job in Arkansas, who was not in government before. Jennifer Flowers had an admitted by her at first and then later by him a 12-year relationship affair while married Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. Some of them were just one-offs, just one-night stands, but he had hundreds of them. When did Hillary find out about this, you might say? Well, here's the funny thing. It is understood and believed that Hillary knew about this stuff well into it, or well early on, much early on than most people might surmise. I believe she knew about it before he became governor while he was Attorney General. But the proof of it, of her knowing, exists while he was governor. So we'll just assume, we'll just go with that. But early on, in his first term, according to sources that were found later on, sources in Arkansas, both, of course, the troopers have come forward. One of them even wrote a book called Dereliction of Duty. His main trooper guy who hung around protected him as governor of Arkansas, a guy named Patterson. But there are other women and people in Arkansas who were found by journalists uncovering the truth about these corrupt individuals later on, who told anyone who would listen that Hillary knew about Bill's philandering, as much as he tried to hide it from her, as must have been part of the agreement. I don't want to know about it. Because they said that Hillary created what was called a truth squad. Now, this is classic Clintonian behavior. What was the Truth Squad? The Truth Squad was the First Lady of Arkansas, Hillary Rodham Clinton, creating or getting in front of every time Bill Clinton was accused of philandering by a woman who didn't keep quiet or a friend of someone who knew and somehow it got out. By herself, she herself getting in front of the media and saying that the woman is a liar, my husband never cheated on me, that he is beyond reproach, and there should be a truth told about that. And the squad went out to vilify the woman who deemed or dared to speak out about her husband, to find dirt on her and make her reputation questionable enough that people might say, well, someone like that would probably lie about it. After all, it is Bill. He's kind of hot. I kind of have a crush on him. I can see where she would want to maybe take advantage of that, maybe make some money from saying whatever. And so Hillary used emotion and other things to discredit Bill's accusers who were part of his philandering. The Truth Squad. Classic Clinton behavior. As we go into part 3, we're going to continue our list because, yeah, it's long. Sorry. But if you can bear with me, you're going to really you'll need a shower when we're done, is basically what I'm trying to say. See you on the next one.